Hi, my name's Matt Locke, and this is the Everyday Athlete Podcast, the podcast for the everyday athletes around the world who refuse to be average and who want to create a legacy of health, fitness, and achievement in every aspect of their life. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it's time to forge your future. Rachel Kerrigan, welcome to the Everyday Athletes Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real privilege to be here. I really appreciate it.
No, not at all. And as we're about to find as we go through your story, I think the privilege is certainly mine and anyone else who's going to be listening to this now and in the future. So before we dive into your backstory, just a little bit about where do you live at the moment? Where are you from? Just give us a taste of who you are.
I'm a country girl. I'm originally from Kempsey on the mid-north coast. So I grew up in an area that was amazing. So I had, the best of both worlds, the beach and the countryside. So I grew up on horses, as well as surfing and things like that. And I'm currently based in Newcastle in New South Wales and loving it here.
Yeah, that's a nice spot. A former industrial area that has, like so many others, has changed its way. It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, and it's so close to everything. The wineries, Sydney, beaches, Hunter Valley. It's all, it's really beautiful.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. As you can see, I like the outdoors.
Absolutely. Now, I notice you've got the door closed behind you. Is that to stop any of our four-legged friends wandering in to say hi?
That and my daughter, yes.
So let's give a shout out to your daughter. What's her name?
Kiara.
Kiara?
Yeah, you'll probably hear a bit about her. She's been
good. So how old's Kiara?
She's just turned, or she'll be turning 17 actually in October. So
excellent. Yeah. So a busy few years.
Yes, year 11.
And how many four-legged friends do we have in the house?
3.
Nice. And they are?
They are Blaze, Chloe, and Flynn.
Beautiful. Well, as we chatted about last week when we had a quick chat, they are welcome to make a cameo appearance anytime they like. Now, Rachel, I appreciate you being here. We connected via the relatively new T Fitness Facebook page, which is something that Tia and Shane have put together, which is awesome. And there's now thousands of everyday athletes just connecting on there, sharing their story, inspiring others, which is just fantastic. And you shared your story as part of that sort of introduction to that Facebook group. And I have to say I was quite touched by it. It really caught my eye. I commented at the time, and I love the humility of your reply. You said, well, I'm just me, which I understand. I completely understand. But nonetheless, it's quite a story. So if you don't mind sharing that with us, so if you could take us back to 2010 and maybe give a little bit of the backstory and talk about what life looked like from 2010 onwards, that would be, I think, very inspiring for people to hear.
Okay, well, I spent 7 years serving in the Royal Australian Air Force, and I saw some active service under Operation Slipper in Afghanistan in 2002. I noticed things weren't quite right when I got back, so I just thought I was over the military basically, and ended up leaving because I had high levels of stress and anxiety. Then that was sort of around 2004. I got into a fairly successful career in project management and contract administration in heavy industry and mining. And if looking back now, I can see the decline. But in 2010, I really hit rock bottom. I was diagnosed with severe post-traumatic stress disorder and chronic depressive disorder. I'd literally become a prisoner in my own head. I took up to 30 tablets a day just to get through the day, and there was some pretty strong medication in that. I suffered a stress-induced stroke and lost all movement down the left-hand side of my body as a result of that. I'm only 5 foot, so I'm not really tall. I ballooned up to 119 kilos, and I was so big, I couldn't even bend down to put my own shoes on when I could move again. And I got to a point where my anxiety, stress, distrust of myself, the world, everything was so bad that I couldn't even actually walk outside to go to the mailbox or hang the clothes on the line. And my daughter became my sole carer. We lost everyone, my family, friends, all pulled away. Ended up homeless for a little period, battled cancer a couple of times. It was just quite a different period. And it wasn't until about 2016, after continual struggle, that my life turned around because I found sport, specifically powerlifting. Fell in love with it, gave me a drive and a passion, and through sport, I was told I'd never work again. I'm now working part-time. I compete nationally in powerlifting as well as wheelchair basketball, and obviously back out in the world and talking. So a few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with you. Like, my daughter literally decided what clothes I had to wear because that was just too big of an issue for me, and just sent me over the edge, even working out what to wear for the day. She did bills, she got herself to and from school, she did cooking, cleaning. I remember the thing she said to me the most was, "There's only two things I won't do, Mum, and that's ironing and clean the toilet." And I'm like, if that's all that gets left out, baby, I'm happy. So between the two of us, we managed. And yeah, it's been a rough journey, but here I am, and sky's the limit.
Yeah, seemingly so. And I mean, all power to you, and have a virtual hug. What an incredible series of years to go through, I guess. And Kiara would have been a young girl when this was happening. She's 17 now, it's 2020. So this is back in 2010 onwards. So she was just a young girl, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. She got left with all of it.
Yeah,
left
well,
with all of it. So yeah.
very impressive young lady, no?
Yeah, I was really lucky because as part of my PTSD, I had a lot of anger, because when you have PTSD, you don't understand why your body's reacting the way it's reacting. Logically, you know how you're reacting is not a logical reaction, but you can't stop it. And that creates confusion and then anger and a whole heap of things. So she put up with a lot of that, but she was able to look at it and go, "It's okay, Mum. I know who you are, and this is the PTSD. Like, I know that your reactions are because of your condition and not a reflection on me." And from a young age, she was able to make that distinction. And
Wow.
yeah, that was yeah, don't know where she came from, but I'm blessed to have her. That's
Oh,
for
I
sure.
think you do. You were there. But I know what you mean. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were 119 kilos. I mean, just to have that gives us an anchor, if you like. So right now, for example, you're roughly, you don't have to tell me exactly, but what kind of weight are we talking about? Just so people can understand the difference.
Yeah, I hover around the 63 to 64 kilos, and I compete around the 60.
So, I mean, you're talking, you were twice your current weight, more or less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And that was as a result of the medication or depression or both?
Both. So it had a little bit to do with the stroke, because I couldn't move
Yeah.
at all. And I'm allergic to alcohol and things. And obviously, you know, my drug of choice was food.
Yep.
So that had a bit to do with that, but also the medication. It changes your metabolism. Because I was on so many different tablets, my body didn't know whether I was here or there or what was going on. So it was always in like a hunger mode and sort of a starvation mode. So it just kept storing fat. So I could go days without eating and still put weight on.
Wow. Yeah, that's a vicious circle, isn't it, to be in, for
It is.
sure. And looking back now, I mean, what level of awareness did you have of the big picture? If you were looking at the sort of chunking up and looking down on yourself and your situation, how much awareness did you have? Can you remember how much awareness you had at the time? Or again, was it more of a haze?
Yeah,
Because
probably
of,
more of a haze. It was just every day ran into every day. And because of the medication that I was on, I didn't really feel anything. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I sat down with my doctor and said, "Look, I need to start coming off some of these tablets. You're telling me I need to recognize my triggers. I need to try to work out what's making me feel this way." But I said, I can't, because I know I love my daughter, but I don't feel it. She tells a joke and I know I should be laughing, but I can't. I see something sad and I know that should make me cry, but I can't. I'm just numb. I'm just literally existing in this hell, basically, because I'm not feeling anything. I don't know what I should be feeling. I can't make a conscious decision on anything.
yeah, yeah.
And you're telling me this is what my life is going to be like for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, but no, this is there's got to be something more out there.
Good for you.
So,
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, a very powerful mindset to adopt in that moment. Do you think that was, and forgive me if these are ignorant questions, I'm not aware that I've suffered with mental health issues so far in my life, and therefore if they're ignorant questions, I apologize. But that,
no, silly.
that not having those emotions that you kind of know you should have, was that as a result of the medication, or is that a form of the depression that it had with you, or again, both?
Yeah, no, definitely both. The medication is meant to sort of normalize everything, but then the depression and the anxiety, because you, with the PTSD, you have really high highs or really low lows. There's not a lot in the middle. So the medication is there to bring you back to the middle. But in doing that, you don't experience any of the highs or lows. And it's sort of, you know, so I was just sort of going between, yeah, it was just like a numbness. It's really hard to explain. And I think I think I shut down a lot too emotionally because I didn't understand what was going on. You know, I'd gone from someone who was making decisions on multi-million-dollar projects, had made life and death decisions when I was in Afghanistan, you know, and was able to think on my feet, to not being able to control anything, disassociating if I even went out in public. The nightmares were just unbelievable. So I couldn't control what was going on. And I think a way of sort of dealing with that was literally shutting down.
Sure. And you say a lot of your sort of what you would expect with the normal support networks fell away. It sounded like you literally, basically, it was you and your daughter there for a while.
Yeah, it was.
One of the conversations we had, which I mentioned to you before, we had Steve Commando Willis and Khan Porter on one of our online get-togethers. And certainly Khan in particular was talking about how, for him, you know, we're all aligned, you know, we all support Are You OK, for example. And it's a valid first question, but he's always been an advocate for, well, what next? What goes after that question? If you get the answer that you're not comfortable with how to handle that, and so therefore you're maybe almost fearful to ask because you don't know how to handle it, the answer and so on. What do you say to people now if you're trying to help them, and maybe they are depressed or they've got someone, friend or family who's depressed, and they're not really sure how to handle it? As someone who has suffered that and maybe still do at some level, do you want to be asked? Do you want to engage in conversation, or actually is it the more a sense you want to isolate away? And I understand that your situation and your answer is different to perhaps someone else's, but for you, if you're giving advice or sharing your experience at least about you, what do you tend to say to that?
It's a really interesting question because, you know, the place that you're in, you feel like you need to be isolated because you're dealing with all these things, but yet you don't want to be isolated because you need the support. So it's really difficult to work through that. So it's really nice to get a text message from someone or a phone call just saying, hey, I was thinking about you today. How are you going? But when you ask that question, you've got to be ready for the response. And from my side, people have to understand that if I say, hey, I'm having a bad day, I'm not really coping, I really don't want to talk, don't take offense to that. That's me saying I'm not having a good day. So maybe just check in on me with a text message in a couple of hours to say, hey, you know, you feeling any better? You know, sending you a hug or sending you a smile or send me a joke or, you know, just something to sort of brighten the day. Yep. You don't have to. I think the problem is with the Are You OK? Everyone thinks they've got to fix the problem.
Sure.
They want to fix the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you can't fix it yourself. You don't need anyone else to fix it for you. So it's more just having that support. And for people that are going through it, it's being able to say, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know why, but this is how I'm feeling. Be okay with that. And, you know, if we've organised to meet up and I ring you and say, you know, look, what, I'm just not up to it today, don't take offence to that. Or if I'm a little bit short or snippy, you know, don't take offence to that. I lost a lot of friends and people because they just got sick of me not turning up, or they got sick of me sort of getting a little bit short and cranky with them. And they didn't understand that that was actually a result of what I was feeling and not what they were doing. So people pulled away, and that just made the loneliness even worse. And in the end, also meant I didn't trust anyone because there was just no one there. No one was reaching out anymore. And in a way, it made me stronger. It actually made me have to rely on myself because I didn't have that support network to rely on. I didn't know how much I missed that support network until I found my tribe again through sport. Mm-hmm. And having that connection with people really made me understand what I'd been missing out of being part of a community. But, you know, it also, I suppose, forced me to make some decisions on my own and move forward and not rely on other people. So I suppose the biggest thing is, one, be honest, talk up, let people know you're not feeling okay, because at the end of the day, your true friends are going to stick around.
Sure.
They will be there for you. And for the other side, just be there. Don't try to fix anything. Just let them talk. Or if you know they're not okay, send them a joke. And if you get a grumpy response back, don't take it personally. You know, like
if they don't laugh at the joke.
yeah, you're still reaching out. And even if they don't appreciate it, it means the world.
And it might have been a crap joke, by the way. So
it could have.
For sure. I know. Yeah. No. Look, great advice, and thank you for sharing. And I know I guess, I think I heard it, I can't remember who, I heard someone say this once, but it's true. One of the challenges with any sort of mental health topic is you can't see it. As in, I can't see it when I look at that person. I can't see it necessarily. And if they've lost a leg or they've broken an arm, you can kind of see that and not be more sympathetic, but somehow it's more tangible. You can understand it perhaps more. Whereas if you've never been exposed to mental health personally, mental health issues, then it's hard to, you can't visualize it in the same way that you're trying to describe it. And I think that's a very helpful way of explaining it when you say, well, I just felt numb. And I know I should laugh at that, or I should love, but I don't feel. And so that actually was the best explanation I'd ever heard that resonated with me, let's say. So hopefully the same is true for those listening to this. So, but you say that, you mentioned community sport, and that you found yourself again. And I know that was, I believe it was through the Invictus Games. Is that right?
Yeah, and my daughter, of all things, she, because I was starting to get back into doing some rehab and that after the stroke, and was doing a few things. So I trekked Kokoda, and I did the Borneo Death March and a couple of things like that, and really wanted to get out and I found that actually training for something gave me a purpose and gave me a reason to get up in the morning, because, in my depressive state, some days getting out of bed was the biggest achievement that I had. So I set that as a goal every day to at least get out, make the bed, and make it to the lounge. If I did that, I achieved something for the day, something positive. So, and then having something to train for actually gave me a purpose again, and gave me a reason to get up, and gave me a drive, because it gave my life some meaning. I was working towards something positive, and I didn't realize how big of a change that would be until the Invictus Games, and getting out there and competing, getting amongst a group of people that understood, and being in such a supportive community, and actually having a goal. Like, I didn't win any medals. I actually ended up breaking my hand and not being able to compete at the level I wanted to compete at on my last lift. So as far as medals and all of that sort of stuff, no, I wasn't one of those people, but it changed my life. Like, I came home a different person, and I came home and I went, I love powerlifting. This is what I want to do. And it drove me then to find a coach. It took me 18 months to actually do that. Yep. And when I did find a coach, I actually sat outside the gym for 2 hours arguing with myself whether I should go in or not. And then I got the courage to go in, walked in, someone dropped a weight, and I passed out.
Right.
The anxiety was so bad.
Yeah, sure. What was that conversation? What, for 2 hours? What was the good and bad voices, one on one shoulder, one on the other? What was the discussion that was going on?
It was a bit of everything. Like, it's like, oh, you're not good enough to do this. You're stupid. How are you going to do this? You can't do anything without your daughter, and you're expecting to go train. You can't be in a room with people. You get overwhelmed and crowded. These people, when you were doing Invictus, you were around people who had mental health issues, that had physical disabilities. So if you had a meltdown, they'd been there. They understood. This is a whole group of people you don't know. You don't know whether they've had any mental health issues. Your coach may not want, probably the coach won't want anything to do with you because you're broken, you're this, you're that. At this point, I still had very low self-esteem and a very low outlook on what I could achieve. Like, I knew I could be better than what the doctor said, but I still didn't realize how much better that could be. Like, I was always told at school too, I wasn't an athletic person. You're the academic, you're not the athlete. So, just concentrate on the academics because you're not built for any sort of sport. And I sort of thought it could be another disappointment. I've got these aims of sort of wanting to compete in powerlifting. What if I go in there and I'm not good at it? Like, how is that going to send me backwards? It was just all of this sort of stuff going in and out.
It's interesting, isn't it, how the subconscious works, and we just reinforce our own vulnerabilities, insecurities. And ultimately what you just described at the end there is the fear of failure, which holds so many of us back. It's the fear of failing rather than the lean in, as you did in fairness, but nonetheless, just in the end, find the ability to lean in and give it a go. In understanding, of course, hopefully in an environment where, well, people are not standing in judgment. In fact, they only want you to succeed in whatever that looks like for you. And everyone's in the same boat, right? I mean, none of us were born doing any of this. At the end of the day.
That's exactly right.
Well, I can certainly speak for myself in that regard. But so after 2 hours, you did go in, and what was your experience?
It was my coach was amazing. He literally started me off training me in the gym on my own. After I sort of calmed down and everything again, he sort of said to me, right, I just want to see you do one lift, deadlift, one lift, bench, one lift, squat, and then he said, yep, I can train you. And he got me back in. So that was in February. Had me at my first competition in July. And I absolutely freaked out. Went to run from under the bar, did a whole heap of different
Last
things.
July?
No, this was in 2017.
Okay. So 3 years ago.
Yeah. And yeah, he got me through and he got me competing, and I ended up getting third at nationals in August.
Wow.
So, I went from not being able to lift a bar and train to getting third at nationals. And I mean, it still wasn't amazing lifts or anything, because my anxiety was getting the best of me. But what I took away from all of it was that I actually competed.
Yeah.
Regardless of the result, I've gone from not being able to walk into a gym to actually now competing at a national competition and actually getting through enough to get a result.
You've gone from the win of the day, getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Actually. So yeah, I mean, really. So I mean, that's huge. That's amazing. And that in itself, I can tell by your face and the way you were talking, it was empowering, liberating, the realization of that.
It was because it sort of helped me understand that I could still have dreams, I could still have ambitions, I could still work. And that's when I realized that my PTSD is a part of me, and it's something that I've got to embrace. And it's actually a blessing, because it's taken me down to the worst of depths. Like I nearly took my own life 3 separate occasions, and I've been in really dark places. If I can get through that, look what I can achieve when I put my mind to it. There's still so much, and because I've seen the really dark, I actually now really appreciate the good. Like, it sort of means so much more. And I actually saw so much of me in that original drive and that original thing that I had. And I go, okay, it's not the life I planned when I joined the military and where I saw myself.
Yeah.
But you know what? Looking back on the experiences I've had and things that I've done now, it's probably better than I could ever have imagined.
Sure.
And if I hadn't been through that dark place, I probably wouldn't have got there.
It gives you such a different level of perspective, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because most of us are living, to use the term you used earlier, sort of fairly normalized lives, right? We go through life, the kind of normal, whatever normal is, but you know what I mean? It's kind of, whereas you've had the low, and it gives you the ability to therefore appreciate the high. And the high might be back to normal, but that's a high.
Yeah.
Because you've got some perspective on it.
Yeah, and it gives you a better understanding of yourself and what you can actually push yourself to do.
Sure.
It gives you a greater understanding. So I actually now probably understand myself and accept myself and love myself more than what I did when it was normal.
Sure.
And you learn to appreciate little things again instead of just being so focused. And when the little problems come up, I still overreact, but I can sort of look back and go, you know what, at the end of the day, that's nothing.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I understand. And just out of interest, I mean, you obviously still participate in wheelchair basketball. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you're not wheelchair bound.
No. You can still, you don't have to be wheelchair bound to participate in different wheelchair sports. So because of my stroke and some issues I've had with my hips and ankles and things as a result of some injuries from service, I qualify to be selected in the National League. Yeah.
So normal life doesn't require a wheelchair for you?
No. We don't know down the track, because I still have issues sometimes where my left-hand side shuts down.
Right.
We don't know why. It's all psychological, apparently. So my body just reaches a point where stress is too much, so it shuts me down so that I stop.
Yeah, sure. So it's self-preservation mode.
Yeah. So still working on that. But I sort of, that again, the reason I looked at the sport was, one, I loved it when I was doing it with Invictus, but two, I wanted to play a team sport, and I thought, people have said to me, you could end up in a chair. Okay, if I'm going to end up in a chair, I want to be able to still do things. I'll get used to it now. What can I do? I can play sport. I can, there's all these different things you can do, because being disabled isn't a disability. It's actually just finding a different way of being able. It can open up so many opportunities.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Isn't the human body amazing?
It is. And now working in sort of the disability space and things like that, just seeing what people can do, like, you know, you look at someone in a chair and think what they can't do, but wow, what they can actually do is just amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, look, Rachel, I'm conscious of your time, and look, I can't thank you enough for being willing to share your story publicly. I can't imagine what that must take. I know it's not the first time you've done so, but still, I'm guessing there's an element of it takes you back to when I asked you to go back to 2010. It's not lost on me that that's probably not a place you want to keep going back to. So I appreciate that you have, and for the benefit of our listeners, I appreciate that you have. For anyone who is struggling with depression, or maybe has suicidal thoughts, or any form of mental illness, what would be your advice to them based on your experiences?
Yeah, you will never forget what happened in your past. It'll always be a part of you, but that doesn't stop you deciding to have a future. And that future can still be anything you want it to be. And, you know, just start by little goals. As I said, my goals was just as simple as getting out of bed, making it, moving to the lounge. And then when that became a habit, I added another goal. And, you know, that was as simple as getting up and actually making my own breakfast so my daughter didn't have to make it for me. And, you know, just every day, if you can add something a little bit more and you achieve it, great. If you go backwards, that's okay as well. Like my little girl told me once, it's always better to be tiptoeing forward than running backwards. So as long as you're making little progressive steps forward, you know, your life will just keep improving and keep improving and keep improving. And there's a reason why the rearview mirror is so small in a car. It's so you can look back and look how far you've come instead of it being the main picture. So just make that decision to have a future, what that means for you, and start taking little steps towards it, because you still can have a productive, amazing life with mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate those insights. I mean, they're just raw gold. I have to say, it makes me want to chat with your daughter at some stage, because I suspect it would be really interesting to hear her take on it. And again, for those who are living with someone who is going through some challenges, a different insight, wouldn't it, from your daughter? It'd be different. I mean, she sounds like an incredible young lady.
Very proud of her. Very proud of her.
I can imagine. Absolutely. Rachel, if people want to reach out to you and connect with you, how would they do that?
You can find me on Facebook just under Rachel Kerrigan. It's a public page, so I'm happy to have people to sort of PM me and things like that. Or my email address is rkerrigan03@gmail.com. So I'm happy for anyone to reach out.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. That's very kind. And I'll put those in the show notes as well so that people can easily access those. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off for today?
No, just about how, you know, sport is such an amazing thing for everyone to be involved in. I love what you are doing with, you know, the everyday athlete, because everyone can be an athlete in their own right. And, you know, sport is such a good way to be healthy and to have such a fulfilling life. And it's an awesome community. So just thank you for everything you guys are doing by creating a community that everyone can be involved with. I think that's just absolutely amazing, because, as I said, without sport, I probably wouldn't have come to where I am. And, you know, places that you're offering mean people like me can actually be a part of something and work towards something. And I think that's what's important. There's a lot out there for people to actually be a part of. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have a legitimate excuse to connect with people like you, Rachel, I have to say. But I have to say thank you to Tia and Shane as well, because, yeah, they've created a forum and a platform where we've connected, and you can see everyone just connecting on there and sharing stories and reaching out and offering support and having some fun on there as well, which is just awesome. So fair play to those guys. It's not like they're not busy.
That's exactly right.
And it's a strange, I mean, as we're recording this, it's a very strange time for them too, with the whole CrossFit Games being, well, when will it be, and so on. So, you know, they're like the rest of us, everyone's being affected in some way by COVID-19. So, but no, it's a pleasure. Rachel, thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to have the chance to chat with you, and it won't be the last time, I'm sure. And yeah, looking forward to doing so again.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Well, there you have it. Thanks very much for listening. And if you've enjoyed this, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell icon so you get notified every time we upload a new episode. And if you think that one of your training buddies would also enjoy this, go ahead and share it with them right now. With that said, thank you once again, and as always, be brave, have fun, and lead by example.